The baby boom generation grew up in the 1960s, and there came to be sharp conflict between this generation and their parents' generation. The young people fought for issues such as women's liberation and civil rights. The fashions of the era reflected some of these changes as the younger generation abandoned much of the constricting undergarments such as girdles and petticoats. Instead of fashion being set by designers in Paris, there were boutiques catering to young people in cities such as New York and London. The miniskirt was one style that emerged out of street style, dictated by the younger generation. Tensions between baby boomers and their parents' generation escalated over the conflict in Vietnam. These tensions came to a head with the shootings of several students on the Kent State campus on May 4th, 1970. The Kent State University Museum commemorated these events with an exhibition, Culture Counterculture, Fashions of the 1960s and 70s. We made a series of videos covering this period and its fashions that's now available on our YouTube channel. One of the important changes in fashion during this period was the widespread adoption of synthetic fabrics. While there had been a number of options that were available as early as the 30s and 40s, increasingly during the 60s and 70s, fabrics were made from petrochemicals, including polyester. The availability of these new materials really increased access to fabrics and increased the size of people's wardrobes. Just as the number of clothes were increasing, the options also broadened. It was more socially acceptable for women to wear pants, and men also had more options. They increasingly adopted brighter colors and patterns. The 1980s were a period of economic prosperity and confidence. There were great technological advances such as the personal computer, and there was a period when fashion reflected this with flashy colors and bold shoulder pads. The 1980s also saw the founding of the Kent State University Museum. Opened in 1985, the museum has really strong holdings of designer dresses from this period. In reaction against the corporate excesses of the 80s, the 90s saw a paring down and simplification in fashion. There was a much more minimal style with an emphasis on cleaner lines, more streamlined silhouettes, and a much more subdued palette with taupe and gray. At the same time, there was an alternate strand in fashion where there was a look towards avant-garde designers, particularly those coming from Japan, such as Rei Kawakubo and Issey Miyake. Their designs really radically shifted the relationship between the shape of the body and the form of the dress. There was an emphasis on pleats and bulges and extra pieces that really didn't have a relationship with the standard cut of clothing. This new interest in Japanese design reflected an easing of the tensions that had existed between East and West, largely owing to the conflict in World War II, when Japan was seen as the enemy. Suddenly, Japan was a source of all sorts of trade and products. Technological products were increasingly produced in Japan and exported to the West. This rise in technology was actually a larger pattern during this period. There was a growth of businesses such as Google, which was created in a garage. This sort of move away from a workplace that was a strict corporate atmosphere was reflected also in the clothing, which became much more casual, particularly those that were worn to work. Moving into the 21st century, there's been an even greater move away from the formal workplace. Facilitated by the rise of mobile devices and the internet, people are connected to their workplace without having to be in a brick and mortar place. The Great Recession and later even the pandemic has really broken down these ties. People have increasingly participated in a gig economy and taken on side hustles. This has also seen the rise of the social media influencers. Ordinary people have begun to be really influential in the world of fashion. Fashion design trends are being set by people on their own with their own social media presence. This has really led to the rise of athleisure, an increasingly casual approach to clothing. Because you don't have to go to a formal workplace necessarily, you're able to wear whatever you want all day. And so there's been an increase in the wearing of sweatpants, of leggings, and all sorts of clothing that was originally intended either for just staying at home or working out. We conclude our fashion timeline with a video from the latest fashion show at the fashion school from the Kent State University. This shows students' view of what the direction is that fashion will take into the future. We also allow you to put yourself into our fashion timeline, allows you to see the influence that you have on fashion in the world. We welcome you to come back again and again to our fashion timeline. Come and see, because we will change out the pieces throughout the year. This allows you to see fashion within the context, in the political, social, and technological framework in the world.